Hi there, this is Michael at Ventec Software, just making you this quick video showing some of the major functions and processes using our software and Dragon Machine. First off, you have the two software packages in one. First of all, the CAD side of the software, where you can do any simple design of straight parts here using these straight part designers, or a full assembly of tubes in our assembly designer. That's where you can produce cutting and create holes in the tubing on an entire assembly. And then, of course, there's our template modules and other modules here available for you too, and our CAD import option, which many people like to use if they're designing in other CAD softwares. They can export their files in STEP or IGES format, or tube centerline DXF files, and bring them in using the options here. Now, say if you had a tube with copes and holes, you'd want to use the tube model option. That's our most powerful and commonly used importing option. The solid tube will bring in straight ends along with the tube center line. Will do the same. And then we also have an importer for bringing in Tekla models from the Tekla software. So say we use the tube model option, and I'll pull up a file here. Now, a couple of things I want to address are in the importer with square tubing. You're going to want to make sure that you've designed your square tube to include a corner radius. These sharp edges that you see here, our software won't be able to acknowledge that as a valid part file. So we'd want to look for another file, just so that you know that. You typically have to have the outside diameter of the part and the inside diameter of the part defined in this interface for it to work. And let me show you what that would look like. It's a straight part, so we'll click straight, and then you click on an outer diameter line. Could be this, could be this, this, and so forth. What you want is, for the start profile, it will designate the outer diameter in a dark green color and the inner diameter with a light green color. So that is what you want to see. Of course, it didn't do the end cut profile, so we'll do that manually. Just click exterior and then click an exterior line. Same with interior line. Typically, that's all you would need to define this part. Like I said, it will need corner radiuses on the corners. Otherwise, if I click plus here, it actually identifies this as a 5-inch round. So our importer is being worked on, obviously, but it's always improving. But that's the general process. Then you can go to holes and cutouts and define your holes the same way with exterior and interior profiles, and save those parts, add them to the parts list here, and in turn you can transfer those either to the CAM side of the software to get a flat layout and cutout, or to an assembly in this CAD side of the software where you can add to it, build off of it, and so forth. So those are options for you. In any of the single part designers, I have some videos on YouTube I would suggest that you watch on how to create single parts. The assembly interface is much more powerful, and let's say if we just took a roll cage template from this interface here, just pick one, and after you put in your dimensions to get valid mounting points and things like that, you can transfer it to a new assembly. And it always asks you if you want to directly paste these parts into the assembly. For things like this, I always click yes. If it's a single tube from another interface and you want to orient it in the right direction for the assembly project that you already have, in the making, then you would want to say no and choose where that part is placed in the assembly. In this case, just click yes so that it shows up on, with the TriStar in the middle. With a part drawn up in assembly or a project like this, you can go to the cutting tab, and all the armor pack and roll cage templates are going to have the cuts already generated for you. To create these cuts, it's really simple. You would just go new cut, grab the tube you're going to cut, and the tube you're going to cut it to. So one of them is green, one of them is highlighted red, and then click complete. For multiple tubes coming in at a node, it would be a little bit different. Let's take this node for example here. You can do new cut, select this to be cut to this, and press complete. But then you will need to cut this to these two opposing tubes. So new cut, click this, and then click the two opposing tubes to get that cutting profile. The auto cut function will handle any simple cuts like this, one tube to one tube. For any intersection of three or more tubes like this, you'll want to follow through those steps. Cut one to the other, then the odd man out, cut that to the existing tubes there as well. It's all dependent on how you'd like to profile those cuts too. So, and then afterwards, the parts are available in the assembly interface. They're available from this parts tab. You can either select them individually and send them out to the Dragon Cam software, to get them in flat layout and send them to the Dragon. Or if you're in any other tab other than the parts tab, say if I'm in the cutting tab and I transfer to Dragon Cam, it will send the entire project. So let's try that real quick right now. Well, let me make sure I got dies appropriate. Let's just change the dies here. Well, no, that's going to in turn change the cutout. Let me leave this the way it is. As soon as you change the die, then these cuts would have to be recreated. They don't auto regen. So if I change the die on a part and say it's a larger radius, well, this bend right here is going to drop. So that cutting pattern is going to be changed. I'll just leave it with the dies I have applied. We'll transfer the entire thing to Dragon Cam. Show you what that looks like. Of course, my software is down here. I gotta pull it up. It's gonna take a second just to check over all the parts and validate them. Bring them in with a list. Okay, so it checks your material, make sure that that's right. Takes every single part. If you send them all to a designer, they will open all in separate windows, and you can change things like the part name that's going to be drawn on that part, for instance, or the kerf width of your plasma stream if you'd like it tighter, or if you'd like to adjust the lead in and lead out information. Usually you don't want to do any of that if you've already named all your parts in the CAD software. When you created them. Typically, you just want to send them all to a new nest. No calibrated machine is available because I'm on a beta testing computer, which is fine. Okay, and then you would indicate your stock length of tubing here. Maybe a quantity of more than one. I assume for this project we might need up to 5 full sticks of tubing. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm just guessing. And we have an auto nest button here, and I want to get back to this. First of all your parts get sent to this parts tab, and you can either add them individually by double clicking them, by hitting this plus sign and enter the quantity that you'd like to add and clicking OK, or you can autofill the selected stick with this part. Say if it's a shorter part, say like this 6-inch part here, if you wanted to, you could autofill this entire thing, or the rest of the usable space on this stick. Now, with this stick, say we were to cut this stick out and we truly wanted all these 6-inch parts, I would highly suggest taking this long part and placing it at the end of the stick, simply because the Dragon machine has a 14-inch to 16-inch dead zone, and that's why you're seeing here it's not filling up the entire stick. Now, if I reorder and take this apart to the end, and move it, if I move it down a little ways and pretty much try to fill up the entire length of the stick. Let me take this guy, slink it in here. We can put another one in. Oops, I'm using the move button. I should be using reorder. Now, I'll move this so that it won't fit. Okay. Now, it will fit because you see the end cut here and the start cut here. There's quite a bit of gap, and we can close that in by using this move button and closing it in. And that's another good way to eliminate drop. Eliminate drop length almost altogether. You can always do that. So if I get them all to fit on here on the stick that I want, and I have the longest part on the end, what's going to happen is if I go to the shifts tab, it'll show me the processes the machine's going to go through for this stick. In the first shift, it will cut out every one of these parts, and then it'll place a little crosshairs on your tubing with the marker. Now it does that so that you can line that up for a reposition. So right here, when it creates that crosshairs, let me show you. It's a shift mark. So it creates that crosshairs, and then the machine will stop, and it will stop so that you can line that up with the laser on the front of the machine. So you might have to unchuck the tubing, line that mark up with the laser, and then press start again. And that will be apparent to you in the machine control screen. I'm going to pull that up right now, although I'm not connected to a machine. Okay, so on the status bar, it'll tell you if you need to reposition the tubing or flip the tubing. And it'll always, with any of these shift marks here, that's what it's asking you to do. It's either reposition or flip. So this is a reposition. I know that because it still wants to do this part from start to mostly the end of the part. And that is a flip mark. When it creates a flip mark, the machine will stop. You'll flip the last piece of tubing end for end and line up that mark with the laser, chuck it in, and press start again, and it will do the rest of the process backwards and finish that part. So you can minimize drop altogether. Now back to what I wanted to show you before. Let me remove all from the stick. Let's just say we have 5 blank sticks and all these parts for this roll cage. In the setup tab, I can click auto nest, and it tells me I only need 3 sticks, and it lines them up in this fashion. You see how it puts the short parts here, long parts here. And this part is well over 14 inches long, so it, the dead zone is irrelevant. One thing I can do that the software is not doing already is go to the 3rd stick, reorder, take this part and stick it up here. Doesn't want to do that because we're removing a stick. Sorry about this. Like I said, my computer is used specifically for beta testing, so it's highly probable this computer isn't even using the right version of the software. Now, of course, when you're done with I've seen this before. System outside balance of range. Okay. So if I don't do anything, it won't pop up. You shouldn't get that error, but in the case that you have the sticks that you want loaded up with the tubes that you want, you can always go to run the project with the run project button above, and in that case mock will open. You will be asked to home the machine. The important thing that you want to see, I'm going to have to close this. Important thing that you're going to want to see is all of these house icons green, meaning that your machine has been referenced and is ready to go, is ready to load your tubes for the project. You can always manually jog. I always suggest if your chuck is towards the head of the machine and you need to home it, up your jog rate and run it back manually. Get it back to about 12 inches, 6 inches from the tail, and then click home all axis from there. As long as the machine is homed and you've clicked the run project button, it will send that G-code out to mock, and you'll see it in the list here. Not that you need to. You can trust that when you hit run project, it'll send it to mock, and then you'll go into the machine controller screen and click start. Then the chuck will move to its load position. You'll load the material, lining the end up with the laser, chucking it in, tightening the rollers on the front gate, and then clicking start again to run the project. Couple other things to address, I suppose, would be in the shifts tab. If you ever find that you don't want all this marking done on your machine, on these parts, that's totally fine. You can click on them, you can reorder them either by clicking and dragging, or you can simply click and delete on each one, and it will send them to the unassigned actions at the bottom of this list. I'm just clicking delete. What it will do is it will place those undesired actions into this unassigned actions, and the machine will not go through either marking or cutting, whatever the action is. So and then there's also our advanced ordering. If you wanted to click select, you would simply click on every cut profile or geometry in the nest here that you wanted to start first, basically. So that would be a long process, but it's available to you as an option. Now, I haven't covered things like creating straight parts and bent parts in this design interface, or much of the Dragon design. I'm going to leave it to you to go through the tutorials I've written out and some of the videos that have been really helpful. I've sent a couple of them to you. Definitely refer to this video for training or anything else that you need. If you have questions, that's what we're here for. Definitely give us a call or shoot us an email, and we'll help you out as best we can. Thank you.